Welcome to the Scientific Dose. Get ready because we're going on a wild, microscopic tour right inside your own body today. We're going to uncover this hidden, incredibly high stakes battle that's happening inside you right at this very second, down at the cellular level. We are tracking the journey of a toxin. We'll look at how it threatens us, the absolute devastating consequences if it wins, and the frankly miraculous chemical rescue our bodies pull off every single day.
Welcome to the Scientific Dose. This is exactly how our bodies fight back.
Okay, let's dive into our roadmap for today. First, we'll start broadly with toxins and human health, just to understand what we're actually up against. Then we hit Section 2, neurodegeneration and heavy metals, where we look at the severe clinical consequences. From there, we shift to our biological hero in Section 3, the liver detoxification system. Then we zoom way down to the molecular level for Sections 4 and 5. That's Phase 1 chemical modification and Phase 2 conjugation reactions. And finally, we'll wrap up with Phase 3 and how your everyday lifestyle supports this whole incredible system. Section 1. Toxins and human health, the invisible threat. Let's get right into it.
You know, we live in a world where our bodies are just constantly navigating a relentless barrage of chemicals. And what's really fascinating is that the threat doesn't just come from the outside world. It actually comes from within us too. Let's break this down. On one side, we have exogenous toxins. These are the foreign chemicals, the xenobiotics that come from outside your body. We're talking air pollution, smoking, alcohol, prescription and recreational drugs, food preservatives, pesticides, industrial chemicals, and those highly dangerous heavy metals like lead and mercury. But then, on the flip side, we have endogenous toxins. Your body literally produces toxic waste just by keeping you alive. This includes ammonia from breaking down proteins, hormone byproducts, free radicals, inflammatory compounds, and even bacterial toxins produced right down in your own gut. We are constantly defending against all of this, all at once.
And here is where the stakes get incredibly high. Toxins are categorized by how they dissolve, their solubility. Water-soluble toxins, like urea, they circulate freely in the blood and get rapidly flushed out in your urine. They're pretty easy to manage. But fat-soluble toxins, man, these are the real danger. They don't dissolve in water, they dissolve in lipids or fats. Because of this, they are notoriously difficult to get rid of. If your body doesn't process them correctly, they just pack up and store themselves in your adipose tissue, your bones, and most concerningly, your brain. Heavy metals like lead and mercury are fat-soluble. They easily cross the blood-brain barrier, and they just accumulate in your nervous tissues over many years, silently setting the stage for massive chronic inflammation and severe neurological damage down the road.
Which brings us to Section 2, neurodegeneration and heavy metals, the brain under siege. When our internal detoxification systems fail to clear out these accumulated toxins, the clinical consequences are absolutely devastating. Let's look at Alzheimer's disease. It's a progressive neurodegenerative disorder that literally steals memory and cognitive function. But look at the core contributing clinical links here: oxidative stress, neuroinflammation, and the accumulation of heavy metals. When heavy metals build up in the brain due to a lagging detox system, they don't just sit there quietly. They generate these highly reactive oxygen species. They trigger this persistent chronic neuroinflammation. And this directly contributes to the severe neuronal injury and degeneration that ultimately manifests as severe cognitive decline, confusion, and memory loss.
And this exact same mechanism brings us to Parkinson's disease, another progressive neurodegenerative disorder. Just look at the healthy neuron on the top. Those branching ends are releasing an abundance of those little purple dots. That's the neurotransmitter dopamine. They're successfully binding to the receptors, which gives us smooth, healthy, fluid movement. But look right below it at the Parkinson's-affected neuron. The dopamine production is severely depleted. There are barely any purple dots making it across that gap. Why? Because long-term exposure to exogenous toxins, pesticides, and the intense oxidative stress from heavy metals actually damages the dopamine-producing neurons in a specific part of the brain called the substantia nigra. When these dopamine pathways get destroyed by this toxicity, it leads directly to the tremors, the muscle rigidity, and the tragic motor loss that is characteristic of Parkinson's.
Section 3. The liver detoxification system, our chemical hero. So how do we actually stop this neuronal damage from happening?
Look at the visual placement of the liver here. It's totally central in our anatomy, right? And it sits there for a very good reason. The liver is the undisputed biological hero of this story. It is the absolute primary organ for inactivating and detoxifying these dangerous xenobiotics. It's uniquely wired to receive this nutrient and toxin-heavy blood straight from your digestive tract. Its main job? Take those incredibly dangerous, fat-soluble toxins that threaten our brain, chemically modify them, and produce bile so we can safely flush them out of the body.
Section 4.
Phase 1, chemical modification. We are zooming way, way in now, right down to the microscopic cellular level inside the liver.
Deep inside the smooth endoplasmic reticulum of these liver cells, the hepatocytes, a highly specialized family of enzymes called cytochrome P450 goes to work. Their goal is to completely change the chemical structure of lipid-soluble toxins to prepare them for elimination. And they do this through 4 precise chemical reactions: oxidation, reduction, hydroxylation, and hydration. Let's walk step by step through exactly what these microscopic modifications look like.
First up is oxidation, which is actually the most common phase 1 reaction. Look at ethanol being converted into acetaldehyde here. Notice the NAD+ converting to NADH plus H+ right above the arrows? What's essentially happening is the addition of oxygen and the removal of electrons. This step is completely critical because it takes a sluggish toxin and makes it chemically active, priming it for the very next phase of the rescue. And this brilliantly illustrates our second reaction, reduction. Here, we see nitrobenzene transforming into an aniline derivative. Notice how the chemical structure changes from an NO2 group at the top of the ring to an NH2 group? Reduction is all about gaining electrons. This often happens in low oxygen anaerobic environments, and it alters the toxin's structure so it can be safely handled by the phase 2 enzymes.
Next, we have hydroxylation. Check out benzene converting to phenol. Notice what's added on the right side of that equation, that OH, or hydroxyl group. I really want to emphasize this specific chemical shift because adding that OH group is a massive biological victory. It significantly increases the water solubility of the toxin, which, remember, is our ultimate goal if we want to stop it from storing in the brain.
But listen, these cytochrome P450 enzymes, they can't just do this magic out of thin air. They require biological fuel. Specifically, you absolutely must have an abundance of specific vitamins and minerals. B-complex vitamins, vitamin C, vitamin E, zinc, selenium, and magnesium. Without these exact nutrients on hand, phase 1 basically grinds to a halt, and toxins will immediately begin to back up in your system.
Now follow this flowchart very closely because we're looking at the most dangerous moment in the entire detoxification process. Starting on the far left, we have our fat-soluble toxins. They go through those phase 1 reactions we just covered, oxidation, reduction, and so on, and they become intermediate metabolites, shown right there in the middle column. They are now slightly more water-soluble, but look at that red, jagged warning box, reactive oxygen intermediates. In phase 1, we've essentially awakened the sleeping giant. These intermediates are highly reactive, and sometimes even more toxic than when they started. If they aren't rapidly neutralized by phase 2, follow that dotted line, they will cause severe tissue damage by literally destroying DNA and tearing apart cell membranes.
Section 5. Phase 2. Conjugation reactions. Because of that danger, we have to immediately move to phase 2. This is the critical rescue phase, where those dangerous reactive intermediates are permanently neutralized.
So, the crucial point here is exactly how the liver pulls off this rescue. It uses a process called conjugation. This literally means attaching a neutralizing molecule directly onto the dangerous intermediates. To do this, we have 6 main biological pathways. Glutathione conjugation uses 3 amino acids to bind toxins and neutralize free radicals. Methylation attaches a methyl group to metabolize hormones, and that heavily requires vitamin B12 and folate. Sulfation attaches sulfate groups, which, you guessed it, requires sulfate-containing amino acids. We also have acetylation, glucuronidation, which is huge for detoxifying bilirubin and environmental chemicals, and finally, amino acid conjugation using glycine or taurine. Every single one of these pathways neutralizes the toxin and massively increases its water solubility. It finally renders the chemical completely safe for excretion.
Section 6, Phase 3, and lifestyle support. The complex chemistry is finally done, but the neutralized toxin still needs to leave the building.
Phase 3 is all about elimination. Those now completely neutralized, highly water-soluble compounds are safely transported right out of our cells. They get filtered by the kidneys and exit via urine. They are secreted by the liver into bile and exit via feces. Small amounts leave through our skin as sweat, and volatile substances like carbon dioxide, we simply exhale them right out of our lungs. The threat is finally eliminated. But as you've seen, this entire complex chemical journey requires vast amounts of energy and very specific nutrients. Your daily lifestyle choices are the direct biological fuel for these systems.
Eating cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and cabbage, and especially garlic, provides the vital sulfur required for that phase 2 sulfation process we just talked about. Green tea provides polyphenols to combat all that oxidative stress. Hydration literally flushes those newly water-soluble toxins out in phase 3. And sleep is absolutely non-negotiable. That's when your body repairs the inevitable oxidative stress caused by this intense internal chemical warfare. We've seen exactly how a fat-soluble heavy metal from the environment can enter your body, evade a poorly fueled liver, and permanently settle into a dopamine-producing neuron. It's a sobering thought. So I want to leave you with this question to reflect on. How are your daily environmental exposures shaping your long-term neurological health? Every meal, every glass of water, and every hour of sleep is either fueling your liver's chemical rescue mission or leaving your brain completely under siege. Thank you so much for joining me for this incredible look inside human biology. Until next time, stay curious.